So I know I'm about 2.5 months late for a video like this, but I don't know. It's the internet. Who cares? You don't mind, do you? I'm going to tell you about the best books I read in 2025, or at least the novels and maybe some ephemera around that. I read 52. I chugged along and hit that one a week, hit that one a week challenge. So of the 52, these are the best 10, 12 that I would highly recommend. Kind of starting near the end and then working our way to my favorites. This was Sheila Heti's Alphabetical Diaries. Most people, when you hear the term gimmick, people say it with dismissal and derision. I love a good gimmick for a book. Alphabetical Diaries sees Sheila Heti's diary that she kept over a year or a number of years, all her diary entries into a spreadsheet, alphabetized them, and then structured this book, this novel, into a alphabetical rendering of her diary. What this kind of does, it brings a lot of the people and subjects together into one thing. In a lot of ways, it kind of maintained the mundanity of someone's day-to-day life, the diary aspect. But it kind of allowed it to cut a lot of the chaff of a diary and just kind of collect the best sentences and kind of the most naked moments of her life. That's kind of the best part of it. Even though I don't know who any of these people are that she's speaking to, it really hones down on her most secret fascinations, very honest about sex, very honest about her thoughts on people and her own anxieties. Interesting gimmick that I think did enough to make the book worth your time. Next up, Incident Report by Martha Baillie. I don't actually have a copy of this one. I read it fittingly at the library. Maybe this one speaks to me a little more than it would to most as someone who works at a library. She was a librarian or worked at a library in Toronto. So this novel is essentially about working at a library and the strange encounters that you inevitably face as someone who works at a institution that allows truly everybody to be there. For myself, I kind of wish it went a lot deeper into, the violence that we as library workers experience. But I really identified with it because I know exactly that experience. The book itself sort of is structured around a sort of mystery of someone who's likely mentally ill, leaving disturbing notes in library books and leaving them around the library. And so our protagonists trying to deal with navigating a situation of working in a public sphere, dealing with scary situations and mental illness and etc. It was quite good. It's quite strong. Some good CanCon, especially if you're interested in the ways in which the stress upon library workers. This one did a lot. It's good. In there, I also read Elidor by Alan Garner. I've been going through all these Alan Garner books. British, I in some ways characterized as a YA writer, though Redshift came out in a NYRB edition. I'd also just read Owl Service. Been digging through them. Alan Garner's books largely typified as or considered to be YA, but I'm infinitely interested in these books that are YA that are infinitely intelligent and infinitely saying so much more than most YA slop these days is. Alan Garner's books sort of typify a magical England, and not magical in a wizard school kind of thing, but this is ancient mythological pagan like prehistory of England, and how those ancient magics sort of like permeate the England of now, or largely the, what I don't know, the 70s when these books were written, and how this ancient magic like influences the kids who are like dealing with it. My favorite of the bunch was Elidor. In some ways, you know, comparatively to Chronicles of Narnia, 4 British children end up in a magical world, you know, a world of ancient folklore of England. Really strong, like, vernacular dialogue, really strong, like, settings, and in a lot of ways, they're also quite difficult. The plot of it is essentially 4 working class children in England get transported to this magical realm, and they end up with 4 kind of artifacts that they need to protect. And as they come to, you know, the modern world, these artifacts like transform into kind of mundane items, but they still have to keep them protected. Yeah, this has sort of spurned a willingness to try to read more ancient British folklore type things, especially kind of listening to, I don't know, Pentangle and, you know, folk like that kind of world. I'm gonna delve more, but Elidor by Alan Garner, highly recommended. So great. It's way smarter than most YA tends to be. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I think in some ways I may be accused of being an obscurantist for the things you're seeing on this YouTube channel, the things that I gravitate towards. But for contemporary fantasy, this was top notch. Ripped through this one in days, like very quickly. We follow Piranesi, our titular character, through this essentially extra-dimensional house typified by just marble-floored rooms, giant hallways, giant statues. The rooms themselves tend to go off in like infinite directions, and as the in some ways it's almost a book of survival. Piranesi's like wandering through these hallways, but there's pieces of nature that are slowly encroaching. Rooms are flooding, there's storms coming in through the roofs of some of the other ones, and basically the mystery of how this place came to be and how Piranesi will, you know, survive within it through the most likely oncoming collapse of this building, this infinite house. Incredibly immersive, incredibly, like the sort of twist at the end, whatever, the reveal at the end was quite satisfying. I loved it. It was great. Additionally loved A Luminous Republic by Andres Barba, narrated by a social worker who is kind of recounting the story of just out of nowhere, a number of feral children just like descended upon this small South American city, and basically just trying to figure out where did they come from, how did this phenomena happen, why are these kids acting this way, what is their secret language that they're utilizing. Recounting of this like strange happening in this town. Super interesting, super tragic, quick read. Highly recommended. I've been sort of watching more YouTube channels where mostly sci-fi readers, so it's everything I'm into. I'm tangentially interested in what they're doing. But I got this copy of Knight's Master at a book sale last year, and God, this was incredible. Why does nobody tell me about Knight's Master by Tanith Lee? Very similar, like I would typify it as a sort of Borgesian retellings of Arabian Nights in some way. Almost reminiscent of Sandman, or the tale like Lucifer within Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Imagine that world. Basically a series of interconnected stories set in this realm, slightly Arabian Nights-y, slightly magically Eastern, beautiful world. Largely focused on like this devil character and his sort of fingers in the lives of the humans of this world. Often quite sinister and very morally ambiguous stories, but incredible. Definitely evoke that thing that I seek when I read Borges or, Invisible Cities by Calvino. Very much the mood of Gaiman's Sandman, but with a Arabian Nights vibe. I need to find the rest of these. Apparently there's 4 or 5 in this Flat Earth series. Impossible to find now. The new covers make them look not what I would think. I'll definitely be delving more into Tanith in the coming years. And hopefully I can track down the rest of these. Probably my second favorite book I read last year, the Bewitched Bourgeois by Dino Buzzati. New edition from NYRB. This is effectively a collection of the selection of 50 of Dino Buzzati, Italian writers, short stories, many of which have never been in English before. Very much influenced by the sort of paranoia of Kafka, very much influenced by the inventive worlds of Borges, very much influenced by the kind of folklore of Italo Calvino, his friend. If you've ever encountered this book, Italian Folktales, collected by Italo Calvino, I would say that you can definitely see that influence in the Buzzati titles. Even off the top of my head, the stories of like the magical furniture store that the guy chances upon, goes back, it's completely absent. The store never exists. The store never existed. The very sort of Kafka story of a man inserting himself into his family, just starting to live in his house, joining his business firm, and not being able, the guy having no wherewithal to tell the guy to leave, or if he does tell him to leave, he's just simply there the next day. Sort of the the anti-Bartleby secret societies of the guys building the Eiffel Tower, and even stories that are sort of the mythological, legendary type, almost fairy tales. Pilgrims waiting outside the gates to a kingdom, the gates that may never open, but part of the pilgrimage is making that commitment to wait for the gates to open. Things like that. Highly recommended. I definitely will be going through more of the Dino Buzzati au revoir. Thankfully, NYRB has made a lot of it readily available very recently. I just read The Singularity. Was okay. Kind of did the same thing that Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream did again. But even so, and then side recommendation, if you've ever read, never encountered the Bear's Famous Invasion of Sicily, his sort of children's book. It's awesome. Recommended. But Bewitched Bourgeois, probably the second favorite thing I read this year. You can't go wrong. Most short story collections are so hit and miss, but even these misses aren't even misses. They are just maybe not as good as the one before, but they are, this collection is fantastic for a lover of Kafka, Borges, Calvino. Redundant comparisons, in this case, actually apt. It's really good. And then my favorite thing I read last year was They by K. Dick, a dystopian novel that effectively, in my opinion, does what Fahrenheit 451 does, but more effectively. It is the story of creatives, artists in a dystopian England, an unspecified timeline England, and these artists are slowly moving to the outskirts as an unnamed they oppress upon these creatives, effectively kidnapping artists and destroying all the artwork within their homes, destroying books, destroying paintings, poetry, and so on. The prose in They is incredibly sparse. It's like a very thin book. It's very quiet and like demure prose, but there's always like that horror on the outside just permeating it. And in a lot of ways, the horror of the book is not necessarily the even though there is a physical they that come to the outside the doors and destroy artworks and kidnap artists and put them into kind of like re-education camps by making them watch reality TV. In some ways, the real horror of the book is the dichotomy of the creative self-censoring, trying to live like a free life, but can it be a free life without the beauty of art? This book was written in 1977 and kind of has a recent republishing. I thought it was so moving, so poignant, absolutely digestible in a day. I can't recommend this book highly enough. Like I said, it does the punctum, the bent of Fahrenheit 451, but I think it does it more succinctly, more subtly, more reaching wider. Absolutely lovely. Couple bonuses. Check out these George Wylesol books. I know a couple came out very recently. This is the only one I've gotten so far, but it was very cool. 2120 by George Wylesol. Essentially, it is a choose your own adventure graphic novel set in first person in a sort of liminal space, Twin Peaksy office that is incredibly creepy and sinister. And if you have like a fear of liminal spaces, this book will do something to you. Choose your own adventure if you love that kind of structure, doing it in a very way I've never seen before. It was a very cool book. And I very much enjoyed 9 Times My Work Has Been Ripped Off by my friend Raymond Biesinger. Haven't seen him in a while, but essentially this is a memoir about working as a graphic designer and kind of having a level of notoriety enough so that your work gets stolen, and sort of it's a recounting of those times when, addressing what it means to have intellectual property and being an artist and having your work devalued and all that. The subtitle is being an informal self-defense guide for independent creatives. I don't know if it really does that. It doesn't really kind of equip you, but it does give you some things to ponder about what it means to be a creative and to own your work and put things into the world, and how to reconcile your work with the world. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Pretty new. Go find this book. And as a lover of concrete poetry, I finally just got a copy of Emmett Williams' Sweethearts, an absolute triumph of like minimalist concrete poetry. It was published, so it runs from right to left, so in a sense, some ways to be a flip book. And the book itself is just the word sweethearts, but with erasures of certain letters in the word to spell out other words, different phrasing. It's absolutely spectacular. This was published in 1967. This is a 2010 edition or whatever. But I'm so happy to have finally gotten a piece of it. As a lover of concrete experimentations and minimalist poetry endeavors, this book is such a beautiful object, such a beautiful thing, and like succeeds fully for only using the word sweethearts. This book moves. It's beautiful. One more I would be very remiss to leave out. This is my favorite art book of the year that I encountered. Tzar, the Tezos Art Review. It's a pixel art anthology edited by my homie Kyle Flemer. This is a collection of new and modern pixel artists working in the field. And this collection is just simply an overview of 50 artists, but spectacular work, super international, a total delight of work found in here. Like, the variance of the work is incredible. Certainly of interest to someone who's interested in, pixel art, the video, like vintage video gaming and the like, but everything is all super contemporary, super modern. Such an incredible amalgam of styles. He kind of goes a little too more into like blockchain stuff that I don't care about or are interested in, but I get apparently that's a big part of the book, or how this work is distributed. So in any case, find yourself a copy if you're interested in pixel art, retro gaming, visuals, etc. Excellent. And there you go. These are the best books I read last year. Other than the Susanna Clarke, which I know has a fandom. Has a fandom on the booktube world or whatever. A lot of these I've never heard touted elsewhere, so in some ways this might be a hidden gem recommendation as well. All of these were awesome. 5 stars, whatever. But I would highly recommend. If you can find me those other Tanith Lee books, I would welcome them in my collection greatly. And with that, go read more books. Tell me about cool things. I love you.